I have this sort of innate feeling that I had to have someone properly from Wales come on the podcast.
I'm quite an outspoken kind of character.
The Farmer TV Presenter has a drive to educate and share his unique way of life.
Which feels like this is your life. I'm getting a bit long in the tooth with my Facebook and my TikTok.
No, you're not. So, hello and welcome to the Farmette podcast. I'm your host, Tamara Warhurst, and this is a show where we talk about the importance of the countryside and how it has shaped my guest's life. I have asked my guests to choose themes from the countryside that have directly impacted their life. My guest today has lived in the beautiful Carneddau Mountains in North Wales all his life, on the windswept slopes where his family have farmed for over 375 years. He constantly seeks to educate the public about sustainable food, farming, traditions, and its challenges. He has a vast following of millions on social media, many of his videos covering pressing farming and environmental issues. The Farmer TV Presenter has a drive to educate and share his unique way of life and has opened his farm gates to diversify into tourism. Recently, together with his wife, has developed Regar, a bespoke hill farm experience. He has strongly campaigned to protect the Carneddau mountain ponies, a rare native breed that have been roaming the Carneddau range since Celtic times. The annual roundup of these ponies gain popularity every year, both in person and on social media. He is a man who speaks his mind and is never afraid to show the truth and sometimes harsh realities of farming life. Gareth Wyn Jones, this is your rural life. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much. Feels like this is your life. Yes,
that's your life in a split second.
I was listening to that thinking, who the hell's this? She's all... thank you for the opportunity.
It's an absolute pleasure. And I grew up in Wales and I have this sort of innate feeling that I had to have someone properly from Wales come on the podcast. What do you think makes our sort of Welsh identity feel so strong and for other people as well?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think was probably small country with an identity, with its own language, with its own culture, a lot of history. It gives you a sense of belonging. So, we have a word in Welsh which is called cnefin. Translated into the English, it means a heft. But in Welsh, if you translate the meaning of cnefin, it means a sense of belonging to a certain area. So when we heft sheep, when we put our sheep into a cnefin, it's hefting. And I think the people of Wales and the Welsh people have been hefted. So that's the cnefin, and that's the sense of belonging to a certain area.
Yeah, because I haven't lived in Wales for, years now. But I grew up there and my heart is so there, whether it's, a thought, a feeling, a daffodil that I see, a sheep, rugby, like I'm just completely and utterly my heart.
Rugby for now, yeah? We're not doing too well at the rugby.
No, we might forget about the rugby.
Okay, but let's leave the rugby out of it. No, I totally agree with what you're saying, because it doesn't matter where I am in the world, I seem to bump into Welsh people and
And they're always so bubbly. They're always so bubbly, don't you find?
I'm a bit erratic today more than bubbly.
But you can be erratic and you can be cross, but you open your mouths and suddenly you smile and it's like, okay, they're all right.
Yeah, well, my hashtag is living the dream. So, I'd be no good if I was miserable all the time. Yeah. But it can be difficult, our way of life, our whole ethos and what we do can be very, very challenging because of governments and supermarkets and policies and everything the weather throws at you.
Well, in Wales it always rains, doesn't it? So
it's sunny today, girl. It's
winning.
I'm not complaining.
Well, I've asked you as a guest to choose some themes to discuss today. Should we start with the animal that you've chosen to talk about today? Why have you chosen the animal that you've chosen?
Why have I chosen the Carneddau ponies? Because they have been part of my life since I was a little boy. They've been on the Carneddau mountain range since the Celtic times. They are very rare. There's only 220 breeding mares left in the world, and they've been a big part of my life, as in not financially, but I think they're magical, they're mysterious, they're beautiful, and every time the spring comes, this time of year, when the new foals are born,
Yeah.
and the stallions are chasing after the mares after they come into say, it's just an experience of new life, a new beginning, and you think that's been happening for generations and generations, and knowing that my family, especially my father and my uncle, who were big custodians of these since I was a boy, has given me that passion for them and the love for them, and I just love sitting up there and just.
And they are totally wild. I mean, they
semi-feral. They're semi-feral.
Semi-feral.
So there is a little bit of a difference. So we gather them once a year. We bring them in. We take some of the colt foals off. We do take a few of the older mares, but we don't take them all, because I believe, nature has its
way.
force.
Totally.
Yeah, but we live in a world of social media and loads of experts, horse experts, and people that, oh my God, there's a dead pony. Oh,
yeah.
Well, I celebrate the death of that pony because I know it's bringing new life onto the mountain, as in,
and it's lived an amazing life as well.
Oh, look, I'd much rather see it die up there than be taken off and die in some field lonely by itself, because they're social creatures. They live in social groups, and the matriarch will be usually the older mare, not the stallion. So, the women are always in charge.
I wasn't going to say anything.
You don't need to. I know my place.
Gosh, well, it must be the most unreal experience going up there and being around that amount of wild ponies. And so you've started this Carneddau experience. Am I saying it right, by the way?
Carneddau.
Carneddau.
Yeah, you're all you are. Carneddau. Yeah.
Carneddau.
That's it, you've got it.
Tell me about this experience. What can people expect?
Yeah, so we thought there'd be an opportunity to share some sunrises and sunsets. And, when you take people up there and you start to talk about the history of the ponies, people are blown away. And people want to know more about them, and how important they are for the whole ecological balance of the mountain, and how the chuff, are thriving up there because of the ponies and the way they poop in certain areas where it attracts invertebrate that breaks down that poop, and then the birds, the chuff themselves, the brown goisecock, feed off that. So it's
got a whole biodiversity.
Of course, it's
got a whole system.
Circle, and it's a circle that a lot of people don't understand and can't relate to, because their life's in cities 100 miles an hour, and they're jumping on a tube, they're jumping on a tram. And when they come up and they see, a pony or a foal for the first time, and start to understand how many years they've been there, and how their genes and genetics have been part of the building blocks for the ponies and the horses in the UK, they're just blown away. And it does give you a little bit of a sense of how small we are in that cog, that cog, a massive cog of life. You're born, you live a life, and then you die. And when you're up there and you see some of these ponies, and I've seen them all my life, some of the stallions that live up to 25, 30 years old, and how prolific they are in their younger days, and then they get older and they have less mares, and then they get pushed out of the whole social. It's wonderful to see, because that's what nature's all about. And you take people up there for their first experience, and you can feel that they get a sense of understanding and a belief of there is other things in life that's more important sometimes than your wealth and, how big your house.
Just nature. Just nature.
Just enjoying that peaceful moment with these creatures.
Oh, I mean, it just sounds completely magical. I might have to come and do one of your experiences.
Well, I'll tell you what I will do. I'll invite you up to the gathering, which is most probably the craziest day you'll ever have in your life.
Honestly, that would be my dream. That would be my dream.
That's in November. It'll be in the first 2 weeks in November.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Gareth, I am there.
Yeah. We've got a date.
Okay. Now, Gareth, that brings us really nicely to your sound and smell, which I think you've said it was heather.
Yeah. And it's going to sound a bit crazy and it might sound a bit corny, but
Yeah.
so when I was a boy, we would go gathering the mountains with my uncles, my father, and my great uncles. And my father would take us up to a certain point, and then my little legs weren't big enough to get me to the top sometimes. So
Yeah.
he'd say either to me or my brother, he'd say, "You two sit here and wait for us to come round here, and you'll just hold the sheep here until we get you." So be a nice sunny day in the autumn, and we'll be sitting in the heather. It's all purple, and the smell of that heather
It's
has.
overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just, and now I know it's childish. I'm 58, and every now and again when I'm up there that time of year, I will sit and lie down in that heather, and it takes me back to my childhood. The
Oh,
smell and you know the anticipation of waiting for them sheep and my father coming and
yeah.
all then because you had such a silence for such a long time, and then all you'd hear was the noise of the sheep, the dogs, and the farmers swearing and shouting at each other. It,
Carnage going on in the background.
yeah, it's like organized chaos, but they're the memories that I really cherish. I know it sounds mad, but that smell still takes me back there, and it still
Yeah.
reminds me of my childhood. So anytime, sometimes, when you feel you've had a bit of a crappy day,
Yeah.
and
Take yourself back there.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
take myself into the mountains as well. I recharge my batteries a lot up there. We've got a saying in Welsh, and I think this is a really good saying. Lle i'r enaid cael llonydd. And translated, it means a place for your soul to find peace. And
So lovely.
them mountains are, unless you experience some of the places that I've been fortunate to know about and the history of it. And when you do experience, and I take some people up there and they are, blown away when they give, some of the druid stones or the druid circles a hug, and I say, pick your stone, and you take them there and explain the meaning of, what I've just said to you. And they're like, oh my gosh, I get this.
Yeah,
No,
totally.
it really just, it is a very, very special, powerful place.
Yeah. Well, that's your place that you chose is the mountains that you're talking about.
Yeah,
And I have seen that your person is your father.
yeah,
Now, I'm now that you're talking about it, I can feel that not only is the place so special, but I take it because your father was there, the sounds, those smells, the heather that reminds you of your father. Is your father still alive?
yeah. He
Yeah.
is 89 and still, going strong,
Yeah.
and real, to be honest with you.
Tell me about him.
Oh gosh, I don't think your podcast is long enough. Um, he's a very, very outspoken kind of guy.
Yeah.
A lot more
So
outspoken.
you haven't got any of those traits then?
No, my mother. I take after my mother. She's a very quiet, refined woman. My father's like outspoken, but he's not afraid. He's never been afraid. He's always very confident. Always willing to learn, to teach people. He has a very, very good way with animals, dogs, horses, ponies, and I was fortunate, that I was taught that.
Yeah.
You know,
Almost just watching it, you learn by just watching
yeah,
it,
and
don't you?
and do you know what? When you don't really understand it till you get a little bit older.
Yeah.
That sense of, and as I'm saying, that heft, the same as we heft our sheep,
Hmm.
people are hefted the same. It's I'm not saying it's an art form, but a lot of people would come into our lives and they couldn't live it because they don't understand it, because it's not a job, it is a way of life. And you
Yeah,
have to
totally.
be dedicated, and not just dedicated. You can say you're hardworking, you can say you have to love it, because if you don't love it, you could never ever do it. And that's
Yeah.
that's what I think I was fortunate to have of my father, is the love of the land. And one of the things that he would teach me as a young boy, and as you get older, you start to realise the importance of that. He said, this land is never ours, okay? We might think we own it, but we're just custodians of it. So when we leave this earth, we hopefully leave the land in a better state than what it was given to us. And that's a great ethos, and that's a great way to look at life. And it doesn't matter if you're a farmer or a fisherman, a fireman, a police, we can all leave something better for the next generation. And I think that's a really positive and good way to leave some kind of stamp on earth, something that you leave for the next generation that they'll remember. Well, do you know what? I remember Dad doing this. I remember my mother doing this, or I remember what we put, or planted that tree, or we did it. And all these things, these little things, will hopefully remind the next generation or the generation after or the generation after.
Exactly. That's what's so cool about those things, that you don't want to die out. You want those lessons to carry down many generations and keep going.
Yeah.
And your children and your grandchildren, that will all come from those lessons that you've learned from him.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I think that's what traditional agricultural, especially hill farming, because we've got quads, we've got a few things, but a lot of what we do is still quite similar to what my grandfather would have done. We still grow a lot of our own vegetables. We use the cow poop to grow that. We use the wool to protect around our potatoes so we can have a longevity of them. So there's lots of things that my father taught me that I'm teaching to my children, and now we've got our first granddaughter, and hopefully, she in time will understand the whole meaning
and meaning of it.
I think, when you're young, when you're 15, 16, all you want to do is chase girls and drink cider and smoke world farming, bloody boring. As you get older, you start to understand.
Well, you appreciate it, don't you? You are so much more aware of what's going on in the world, that you appreciate those magical moments that is really nature in our countryside.
Yeah.
There's just nothing that beats it.
No, 100%.
Now, I did ask your lovely wife if you had a sort of object or a possession that told a story or that had a bit of sentiment to you, that maybe you'd been passed down from, a generation above you. Was there something that you thought of?
To be honest with you, I think the most important thing that's been passed down to me is knowledge.
Yeah.
I think there's quite a few things that have been passed down in our families, from Welsh dressers to grandfather clocks. But I think that knowledge is, you can't put a wealth.
It's priceless. It's priceless.
It is. And as you do become to the autumn of your life, you start to understand how important it is to pass that knowledge forward, because I can leave you some gold, I can leave you some land, I can leave you some sheep, I can leave you some cows, but if you haven't got that knowledge to understand, the whole meaning of what we're doing, then really it's quite worthless. So that knowledge that my father gave me is the knowledge that I know that the next generation hopefully will take that with them onwards, and
totally.
And it's beginning to start to resonate in my eldest boy, who's 27 now, and he's starting to understand, because before he was like, oh, he's bloody moaning about this, Dad.
Yeah.
Now he's beginning to go, oh,
now he's like, oh, okay, I actually get it now.
Yeah. But I was exactly the same as him as well at some stage,
Of course. But that's the great things about being a child and being a teenager. You're so innocent and you're so naive to what's out there, that you want them to have that. But there does come a moment where you're like, okay, now it's time to grow up. Now it's time to get it, and help your old man out. Get on that tractor or that quad bike. Get out there.
And to understand how fortunate we have been. Have been born into what I'm doing, how fortunate. It's not been easy, don't get me wrong, and was probably, I'm quite an outspoken kind of character, and I haven't done myself favours in some situations by the things I've done. But
Yeah.
do you know what? It's been a journey that I wouldn't change. It's
Just talk to me quickly about that outspokenness. You know, you are incredibly active on social media, which I really respect, because there's a lot of people that are too afraid to say what they believe, and feel that they're going to get hammered. You know, do you feel that social media is sort of the only way really that farmers can have a voice and reclaim those narratives without being silenced?
yeah.
I take it
I
that you don't let the sort of keyboard cabbages stress you out very much.
No, I've got pretty thick skin,
Yeah.
Having my father calling me every name under the sun, I don't think some of these.
Doesn't bother you.
No, I've been called everything that I don't need to be worried about what they're going to say about me. But I think it can be a double-edged sword as well. I think you've got
Yeah.
to understand that. Well, I feel I'm very similar to Marmite. Some people love me and some people absolutely hate me. But do you know what? I am what I am, and it doesn't bother me. If you ask me a question, I will answer you honestly. I don't want to be everybody's friend. I don't think that can work in today's society. And I think that's the problem we've got with a lot of the politicians and the people today. They want to be people pleasers instead of being honest to themselves. And, I've told.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, do what you believe and people will join you for the ride because they believe in you.
Yeah.
If you try and keep everyone happy, it's not going to work.
And it doesn't work for me. I hate to say it, it doesn't work for me. I've worked for mainstream media, and sometimes I found it frustrating the way they edit things. And that's why I think social media does have a place for us as an industry. I was doing a podcast last night, and people involved in this farm fest with Clarkson. And I think Clarkson's done an absolutely wonderful job. I wasn't the biggest fan of him before, but I think what he's done for agriculture by bringing it into the mainstream has been brilliant. And there's some great youngsters coming through on social media now. I'm coming to the end of I'm getting a bit long in the tooth for my Facebook and my TikTok.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Absolutely not, Gareth.
Yeah, I still swear too much when people don't close gates and things. But look, I that's me. That's me. And anybody that really knows me will know that I'm not acting. I'm not putting things on. This, you see what you get, and I try to be as honest as I possibly can without getting a Facebook ban or a twist.
Yeah, but that's why people love you.
TikTok accounts than anybody. I think I've had 9 TikTok accounts.
Are you serious? What? Because they've deleted you?
Oh, honest to God, man, it was like the vegan teacher I was like at the beginning, calling the I'm going like this, and then another ban, another gone, and then the guy that helps you with the social media goes, "You've got to stop this. You've got to stop.
Enough.
No, we're getting up to 30,000 followers, and then we've got to start again." But I look at it, 2.5 million followers on YouTube. We've got, I think,
it's insane, Gareth. It's insane.
On Facebook, we've got 80-odd thousand on Instagram, and I most probably have a lot more on Instagram, but I got hacked by a vegan from Canada on that and lost all my accounts. So back to that, I've got 160,000 on TikTok, and I don't even understand that TikTok thing. So
no, I can't even begin to understand it. I cannot even begin. I mean, Instagram is a step for me. Fine, anything more than that.
I find Instagram like the posh one, and then I find like Facebook like the middle class kind of people that go down the pub. You know what I mean? Like a bit of gossip. And then TikTok is like a 12-year-old's schoolyard with all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But then you've got YouTube then, which can be very educational and good. So, you've got to know your platform.
So you got to know your platforms. Yeah.
But I literally don't care. I just post. Well, Dewi helps me. Dewi posts where he thinks my videos fit better. So he makes them decisions, and then I come home and then my wife goes, "You didn't post that? Are you mad?" I'm like, "Oh no, here we go again."
You're in trouble.
Every week, every day. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to a moment that sounds quite bonkers, just from the short note that I've got, which is snow in spring in 2013. Now, this was my weather question. I mean, obviously, we're in the UK, you're in Wales. The weather is so dramatic, and it can 1 minute can be glorious sunshine, and the next minute it can be snow. So tell me about this particular moment.
So we were hit by, I sound like a Hollywood bloody film director, by the perfect storm. Perfect storm. So perfect storm meaning we had a massive snowfall, massive snowfall, and we had big winds with it, which causes drifting, and it was all blown down into the two valleys that are Llamavechen and Breckon. So this happened in a 12 to 14 hour time zone. So
Yeah.
I'd left the house when I'd heard the snow, was going to be pretty intense. But
so had you been warned? Had you been warned by
I looked at the weather forecast, and end of March, it's like,
really?
Yeah, is it going to be that bad, or are they just making it up?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So it didn't hit everybody the same. There was Llangollen, a few areas but we were hit bad. So I decided to go and open the mountain gate. So went up, but I couldn't even make it there because the snow was so fine and the wind was blowing. I couldn't get my breath, so I had the scarf on, and and it was like, oh my God, it was like, so I couldn't make it, and I'm never giving up on hardly anything in my life, and I had to turn around and go back to the house. Anyway, next morning, got up, and I went, oh my God, couldn't even get out of the house. Snow was
really
like that. So I knew we've got problems. So got the dog, and then...
Hang on, were all the animals out at this point?
All the animals are out all the time, except for the cows are in, so the ponies are out all the year round. So we've got, nearly 4,000 breeding ewes. So they're not housed inside, so they're all outside. So the sheep had, gone to the stone walls where they'd literally been buried alive under the snow. We lost about 80, 90 sheep, but
gosh,
I couldn't tell you how many lambs.
Literally buried alive. Literally just...
Yeah, but we saved most probably 120 of them over the 4 days after the snow. So people,
digging them out?
Yeah, I had film crews with me. It's all, if you go on YouTube, it's in the Telegraph. It was in, ITV. I had BBC. It was like something out of ET. I had like 3 bloody live television crews.
All the bands turning up.
Yeah, I was like ET. I was like, what the hell? And it was that pivotal moment that changed my life,
Yeah.
We did an occupational documentary called The Hill Farm. The BBC was filming us for 12 months on that bloody year. It was BAFTA nominated, so me and the wife got to the BAFTAs, but we didn't win. Some stupid program about some office won something.
Oh no!
But it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
It was an experience that we had 12 months of footage of our life, which was pretty gruesome in the first month or so, and that's forever. That'll be for the grandchildren, the great grandchildren to say.
I was going to say those kind of things last for generations and generations. Those kind of stories.
And it changed my life. Literally snowballed my career. See what I went
just
with?
That pun there. Yeah, nice, love it.
Yeah. So it was an experience that changed me. I'm not going to lie, it changed me. And it made me...
Well, I think it just shows the brutality, doesn't it, of outdoor life, and how it can, in a split second, change pretty dramatically to be really quite tough.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think, a testament to you to pick yourself up after situations like that and after moments like that and carry on, because a lot of people would say, I'm done.
Yeah.
But, you didn't, and you carried on, and obviously, for the better.
Yeah, I know it sounds a bit mad and a bit corny, but I tried to take the negatives and turn them into positives. I know it doesn't always happen, but I look at life and think everything challenges you for a reason. It's up to you if you want to take that challenge on, or do you want to just go, do you know what, it'd be easier to sit in front of the fire and just let them sheep sort themselves out. We're not going to go bankrupt. We'll be all right. But when you go out there and you've pulled 5 sheep out of a snowdrift, pulled a couple of lambs, and you think, you know what? If I hadn't gone there, they wouldn't be with us. And it's a sense of you've done something right. You've done, because sometimes life can be difficult and it gives you challenges. You can never be perfect, but if you try your best and you work hard at what you do, I think you will be successful. And you just got to keep knocking.
And it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like a good person, a good human being, that you are doing good for the world.
Yeah.
I love that. God, what an incredible, incredible story. Now, this is quite amusing, but we're near the end of the podcast, and one of the last things I've asked you to choose is a song. Now, as we're a new podcast, we don't actually have the funds to be able to buy the rights to play your song. So your song that you chose was Fortunate Son by Creedance Clearwater Revival. And I was wondering, as you're a Welshman, if you would hum it for us.
I'm the worst singer. Can I phone a friend? Ria?
Yeah, phone a friend.
Yeah. Tidama. So my wife was a bit of a pop singer.
No.
Yeah, Welsh pop singer. Everybody would have expected me to have picked a Welsh song. There's loads of lovely Welsh songs.
Oh yeah, totally.
Love them.
Carneddau is one of my favourite songs of all time. Oh hi,
hello.
So Tamara wants me to hum Fortunate Son, but I thought maybe you could sing it.
I don't know the song. Not much.
Ding ding, ding ding, ding ding.
I can't remember. My brain's gone so.
So brain's gone. Is Lila going to sing it?
It's really hard because it's more like a.
And it's that person that's been born with a golden spoon in his mouth, but he isn't. He's the guy that's worked and done what is really important in life, and that is working hard. And had to go out to the war because he couldn't hide away because he was somebody special. And I think there's a lot to that. That the people that stand up and go out there are not always appreciated. The people that are fighting for what they believe is right, and the people that sit back in an office and tell everybody else what to do.
You are so cute. Sorry for our listeners that are listening. I've got a gorgeous granddaughter sitting on Gareth's lap. Thank you for your input. Bye. Yeah. No. And does it remind you? Did someone play that song for you?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it is. It just pops on my Instagram every now and again. And
it just hits one of those ones that hits you.
I don't know. I just listen to the lyrics and I think, I don't know what it is. There's quite a few songs in Welsh that do the same for me. But
God, don't you put a Welsh male choir on, and I'm an absolute wreck.
Yeah.
The tears start flowing. It's just so, I find it completely emotional.
Yeah, and there's some good, religious songs as well. I was in a funeral a couple of days back, and I hadn't heard this song for a long time. And do you know what? Because the guy was an older farmer, and he was a neighbour down the road here. And oh my God, he was the most sweariest straight guy you'd ever come across. And that song came up, and I thought, wow, it really gave me a little tear, in my eye, and
it makes the hardest of men soft.
Yeah, and I think
we're all vulnerable, though, aren't we? We're all vulnerable.
If you're not vulnerable,
there's
something radically wrong with you. And I think it's good to show your emotions. I'm not afraid to cry or laugh or enjoy, and I think that's how you should be in life. The people that bottle it all in, and I'll go top of the mountain sometimes, and I will scream my head off like a banshee because some gringo in some office in London has put inheritance tax on agricultural land, and these things are there to be challenged, and these things are there to find solutions to them. So that's why I think I love life. I like challenges, and I like to get up every day knowing that, no 2 days in my work life is going to be the same.
Same, yeah. So just to close out on this amazing conversation, and I really can't thank you enough for joining me today. If you could take one thing from rural life into the rest of your living life, a value, a habit, a truth, what would that be?
Honesty.
Yeah.
Honesty, I think that's missing in society today. I think it's something that a lot of people don't realize and don't understand, and I think for this world to be a better place, I think a lot of these people need to look at themselves and judge themselves honestly in what they do every single day. And that's my opinion, because I hate people that mislead people. I hate people that lie to people, and I hate people that don't answer questions. So
yeah, and and I think the kinder and the more honest we all are, the better we can make a place. But until that starts happening from people at the top, it's never gonna move forward.
No,
and there needs to be a big shift. There needs to be a big shift.
100%. Every stone you throw into that lake, there's a ripple effect. And I think when you understand that when you're dropping boulders, there's big waves, and people, are getting hurt and getting killed and getting maimed, and we can change things. But like I say, we have to be honest about every single thing we do, and we have to ask them questions of ourselves. Did I do the right thing?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Gareth Wyn Jones, very much for sharing your rural life. What a life you've lived. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Please share and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. I will see you next week.